a special video presentation from Melissa Crumbakers.
Hello, my name is Melissa Oman. I am Mike and Marco's daughter. Thank you for being here today to celebrate Dad's life. He was a really special man, very special to me. And he was the first man that I ever loved. He exemplified kindness, gentleness, integrity. He was thoughtful, he was strong, he was encouraging, and about a million other wonderful adjectives that I could describe him as. And he was handsome. He was adorable with those dimples. But he also had incredible integrity and an amazing ability or capability for unconditional love. And those were God-given things, something that God put in his heart, but he also made active choices on both of those, because even though we're given gifts, we actually still have to choose to use them. And he certainly did. Dad was a man of great integrity. He walked the walk. He made sure that if it was something that needed to be done, he would do it, even if it was hard. And circumstances, over the last 10 years, I think really just showed that wonderful characteristic in him. He couldn't control the circumstance that he was in, but he could control his response to it. He maintained his positivity and joyful spirit through pretty much the whole process. There were certainly times that were very trying, very hard, very tearful and painful. But even in those moments, Dad would try to find the positive. The things that he could control were his response to it, and that totally shows. He was not perfect, but he did continue to keep his eyes on Christ, looking upward for what he should do, how he should respond, and that was reflected in the really his life, but I think it really shows the most when somebody's put in a hard spot, how they respond, and he responded well. Unconditional love. Dad showed up for everything. Anything that he was around or in town, he made it there. For kids, for Jeff and I, but also for grandkids, if he was capable of it. I mean, even the last 6 months, he was very sick. And he made it to a lot of my kids and Jeff's kids' sporting events or different activities. Anything he could, he made it there. And he would definitely, I would say that he wasn't always going to verbally tell us that we were messing up or doing something wrong, but he would encourage us towards a right action. He definitely went from being the parent position to more of like a friend and coach. He really was just kind of there encouraging us along. Even in the end, he really wanted us, he left us with some really these final beautiful words and things that we'll cherish and hold dear, but encouragement as we move forward as parents. So great unconditional love. That definitely came from God, because it's not always something that's just born into someone, but he shared that with us, that beautiful unconditional love. My dad was also very silly, so he was serious about his faith, but he was also a very silly guy. He loved tickle fights, and he'd get us kids almost to tears laughing so hard. Grandkids, nieces and nephews who were here, great nieces, great nephews, they would all tell you that's a real common thread for him. Excellent dad jokes. I think we like to joke his 4 favorite food groups were, or foods probably, chocolate milkshakes, chocolate chip cookies, a really decent hot chocolate, and M&Ms. He loved those things. And then probably the next thing that jumps to mind, besides the food's delicious, but singing. We sang so much. We sang on every car ride. Our last car ride together, we sang Everlasting Love, Mom, Dad, and I, and Cy was in the car also, and I'm not sure if he sang, but we sang nice and loud. If you've ever traveled with my dad anywhere, he would sing, and likely you would start singing with him, but he just had such a great voice, and it was really fun to sing together. I will cherish that, and I will carry that on with my own kids. We sing a lot in the car. The one story I wanted to share. Sorry, I'm trying to keep myself on track. The one story that I wanted to share was when I was young, we held hands in the car, Dad and I. If Mom wasn't in the car, I would sit in the front and I would hold his hand. And it got to a point in adolescence where that started feeling awkward for me because none of my other friends, I didn't see anyone else doing that. So I had to have the talk with him. And I worked myself up, we talked about it, and I just saw how crushed he was, so I was crushed, I felt so bad. When we got home, I came inside the house, I look at my mom, I'm distraught, I just run upstairs crying, and then she shared that then he comes inside, like I'm out of the picture, he comes inside crying, just she doesn't hold my hand anymore. Because I think that like, as much as I loved my dad, the love that a dad has for his daughter, his kids, is a really special thing. So, anyways, yes. So I had to draw that line in the sand with him then, but then in adulthood, I was able to go back and start holding his hand again. And I held his hand a lot. At church, when we were watching football, watching movies, if I ever was in the car next to him, I would end up reaching over and squeezing his hand, that 1, 2, 3, I love you that we would do to each other. But really the last month or two was a lot of good quality time, incredible quality time I'll cherish forever. And I held his hand a lot. Jeff did too, Mom, anybody that was with him, we'd hold his hand, and I like to think that that really helped him to know that he's never alone. But holding his hand in that time was so precious and meaningful to me. And then, time draws short. You go from thinking you have decades to really just having moments. And in that time, we were able to pray. We were able to sing over him. Excuse me. We were able to tell him how much we loved him, and he was able to tell us the same. And then, as it really got close to the end, we prayed that God would give his body, that he would take him home so that his body could have a rest. And you know what? God answered that prayer. He is renewed, and that's priceless. So as much as I miss him terribly, I would not wish him back. Not into that pain. I am my Father's daughter, and the love and wisdom he shared is etched on my heart, on his wife's heart, on his grandkids' hearts forever. And we will move onward, and we will be okay. We love you. You finished well, Dad. Love you.
Thank you for that, Melissa. Kathy, will you make your way up here? Kathy's going to share a few words.
Good job, Jeff and Mel. You did a great job. You had an awesome dad. Most of us in the room know that one thing Mike Crumbaker did really well was friendship. And I had the privilege of being Mike's friend for the last 40 plus years. But it was my husband, Mark, who met Mike and Mark met Mike in 1971 when they were 7th graders. And the beautiful friendship was born. They went to junior high school, and even some college together. They did sports together, they sang in the choir together, a lot of their social life was together. I think they even dated some of the same girls. But they always maintained a great friendship. They each got married, they raised families, they moved to separate locations and had multiple job changes. The friendship continued. Several years ago, when Margot started her health journey, the 4 of us sat down and made the friendship more intentional. And we committed to walking life together, no matter the circumstances. And what a life it's been. There's been lots of laughter, food, vacations, sporting events, kids' graduations and weddings, grandchildren, and during all of that, a ton of motorcycle trips. When Mike began to have his health challenges, life got a little more difficult. But the friendship and the fun remained. Life continued, and it just so happened that last year it was Mike who read Mark's eulogy at a service just like this. At the end of that eulogy, Mike said God had prepared a place for Mark in heaven, and he couldn't wait to see what heaven was like. 1 year, 9 days later, Mike was given his place in heaven. My niece Amy said heaven just got louder because Mike and Mark are together again. That is a hope and a promise that brings me joy, makes me smile. Their friendship and laughter lives on. Margot, it's going to be hard to move forward without Mike. There's no way around it. But you and I, we're going to continue that friendship. And with God's grace, we're going to keep walking life together, no matter the circumstances.